I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money, and this is Filmmakers On. Today, I'm talking to Sean Reid, the filmmaker behind movies such as Rhymecology, Write Better Rhymes, Death Day, and Redemption, and is one of the founding members of a brand new streaming service called World One TV. He's worked steady as a producer and director and assistant director over the last 20 years and is sharing his experience with us here today. Well, let's do the interview thing. All right, guys. So today I am here with filmmaker Sean A. Reid. Or do you go by Sean Reid now professionally or Sean A. Reid?
You're going to easily find me if you put Sean A. Reid in. If you do Sean Reid, it might be more difficult. On Tubi, you can put in Sean Reid and it's me. The first three movies, it's Sean Reid.
You've been involved in the business for a long time. Looking back at your IMDb, it looks like you did your first movie in 2003, and I would assume you were working before that. How did you get into filmmaking?
Well, the first probably real introduction to it was going to the newsrooms with my dad, as he was a journalist working at different news stations and CBS News, KNXT. So making those tours and having my parents be divorced, he would just take me to work with him. So I would be around the video equipment, the typewriters, the daily shooting, edit bays, the studio. So you got a sense of a lot of things from just being around it. I think by the time I was 12, I had done what would be considered an internship. Really, my first film, Redemption, being part of that kind of bookended type of storytelling, is really contains video that I shot in when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. So I was always that guy with a camera, maybe even at a party, but also at a funeral. My dad would just go, okay, we're doing a funeral. Do you want to take the camera? And I'd take the camera and shoot pictures at a funeral or at a wedding or whatever it was. So there was always constantly cameras and typewriters everywhere around me, thanks to my dad. So that really kind of ingrained things. And I was also then working for him by the time before I got out of high school. So I was a PA on, he had a show called, it was called Inside Video This Week, which was about the movies that were coming out in video stores. And I was a runner for that show. Another show, a BET fashion show, I was a runner for that. And then, I even worked for other friends. We worked for other people's parents, so my friend Rob Scott, his dad Oz Scott, directed the Mandela concert when he toured, and I was a PA on that. So that's like 19, I'm already getting to drive around and, big events and see things and feeling pretty confident about it because that's where I've been more than maybe at home.
And so early on, it seems like a lot of your early experience was through kind of television production. How did that education inform you as a feature producer and filmmaker?
Well, I think that some of the things that are overlooked from TV, and specifically doing like the things that I was doing, which is, throughout the years, which is a lot of news, which, then translates into being, akin to documentaries, that, you're capturing and you're working and you're doing things every day. And there's a new show every day. I've worked on, several news shows where it's, every single day you do a new show. And that idea gives you, I think, a sense of how it's not as precious as you think it is. I think on the filmmaking side sometimes, especially for new filmmakers. So on the flip side of that, there's also some negatives. TV is a much more formatted type of style. Once you develop that format, you stick with it. It's way more driven, I think, by audience expectation. They do not want to be surprised. So the expectations of certain things. So you learn certain key elements very quickly, but that doesn't necessarily give you an artistic slant in your creativity, looking at doing something like, Redemption. It doesn't necessarily prepare you for that. Although I had a journalist and news footage in that. So I guess it does on some level.
With Redemption. So this was like your first feature film. How did you get it going? What was the impetus to get that started?
Redemption was accumulation of a lot of things. One, it's a personal story. And I think I've always taken, especially since I've worked in television for so long and worked in the industry as a job, I took my filmmaking much more of an artistic, slant on many ways. And the understanding fundamentally for me that it was part of my life's journey and probably part of a trilogy of movies I'll hopefully eventually end up making about my life. So that was just the first chapter. In high school, I was writing Lost in the Land of Malls. That was about high school, which maybe I'll make some say too. But Redemption was a short story called Learn Suffering, which horrible title, that turned into Bad Vibes, Brown Eyes. But it was something I'd been writing for years. I think I spent 5 years writing different versions of it. And then I met Hunter Dennis, who was a screenwriter who was working studios. I was working at E. I really was ready to make the movie. I think I was ready to be a director more than I was ready to be a screenwriter yet, at least to my standards. So, bringing Hunter in and working with a screenwriter taught me a lot of things in that process. And it still was like, a 5-year haul making Redemption from, idea to delivery to seeing it on the screen. And now it's, you turn around and it's almost 25 years later, 20 years later. So, wow, where does life go?
I know.
Anyway,
She is. So you officially didn't attend film school or anything like that. You pretty much learned by doing and by witnessing like your father's work, correct?
yeah, I mean, I did go to a summer program at AFI when I was 12 years old and made a video, made a commercial, and worked on everybody else's crew making things. So that was my film school.
Right.
And then like you said, other than that, it was just, oh, there's a camera, pick up the camera and learn how to use it. Oh, there's a there's sound recording advice, use it, figure it out. And also just from, the advice my dad always had, it was like, you don't really need to go to film school. I can show you those things. It's like, learn how to tell stories, learn about history, read, stuff like that. So
Right.
anyway.
So after directing Redemption, you pivoted a little bit into producing, and you followed that up with Horrors of War a few years later. How did that come about?
Horrors of War, I had moved to Ohio and I was working in local production. So I was doing, local lawyers commercials and all kinds of things for Timken, which was the big company, the local third largest bearing manufacturer. And before the first time ever, I really was not like working in a place like E or at Fox or somewhere. So I was really, working at a small place and not really associated with anybody who worked there. So I started attending indie club meetings in Cleveland and saw a trailer for the Horrors of War that was very polished and very well put together and didn't have any financing. And I said, well, gee, I know some distributors. So initially it was just introducing them to some people that could do some pre-sales for some distribution. It then turned into doing all of really being the line producer, production manager, physical producer type of person, like hauling this unit around, Ohio, Columbus and Worthington, that area for, a month and a half of shooting. And it had a lot of scope with 3 different directors. I was teamed with my friend Phil Garrett. And so we each produced a director. And I think that I overlapped. I think that we each took one of those. And then, that's how we kind of broke down the movie on some level in terms of responsibilities. And it was definitely an adventure. It's a Horrors of War is still out there. It's an interesting movie. My wish, I think, is as I've had a lot of other horror experiences, is that there would have been more minority faces in it. And if I could have had more influence, and I think that if people looking back probably would have listened to me more, they probably would have had that influence. So, so that's the only thing I think moving forward that I've recognized that, that's something as an independent that's very important to take advantage of what and that's something I know.
Yeah. And I think the diversity thing, I think that would be very different today. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think today in the indie marketplace, we're seeing, just more potential sales for diverse films.
Well, I think that there's ultimately with the explosion of streaming networks. I mean, you have 100 and I think 6 or 107 streaming networks, 107 including World One TV, the newest one. But you also have, all of these other ones, and so you have ability something like Tubi, where now all of those movies that maybe didn't have a place on Netflix and didn't have a place on Amazon and didn't have a place and maybe only have a place on a certain little section. Now people who like those, they're driving that audience for them to put those things on that format. So people are watching it on Tubi. That's why there are so many of them, and that's why they're doing so well. Which, I guess we used to call, urban projects. I hate that. I mean, I think we can just call them black films.
That's what I try. That's what I've been trying to do. I've had a couple of black filmmakers correct me when I say urban film.
Don't say urban.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
We don't like that. But yeah, it has, I mean, it's like, and I fought that. I think Redemption suffered from that on a marketing side because they tried to market it as an urban movie when it's a black art movie. When you look at, Sincere and some of the shows that are on and Jordan Peele's work and some of the work that's out there, Atlanta, or a lot of the work that's out there now, Redemption was really just kind of just saying, hey, we're individual voices. This is our voice. Yeah, I'm not like everybody else. That's why I feel like I need to be able to speak to my own audience. And there is an audience for those types of things. And I think it's just, we're really just finding there's more connections for minority voices right now than there's ever been, and it's sustaining rather than when I saw it in that initial run with Spike Lee and John Singleton and Matty Rich and then dying out from there. That you really kind of just said, they kind of just went, oh, that's nice, we can make some money, and then they forgot about it.
Yeah,
they left the guys that are still there. They didn't continue to develop talent. They didn't continue to look for talent. It was really just kind of like a shutdown again. It's like, oh, we can do it this way. And I suffered from that at E, working there as a producer, being told, oh, the black audience, it doesn't really matter. We don't want that. Who doesn't want money? That's that's always my thought.
Were there people that really articulated that to you? Like,
oh, absolutely. 100%. You'll be sitting in a meeting and it's like, oh yeah, that demo doesn't really matter in this case.
So you came up in a fairly, almost like studio, proper, larger budget system. So what do you see the differences between, doing something like that and then moving into like pure independent film?
I think that the thing that I maintain and where some people see a difference, I don't really see a difference. Basically it's just another form of production. And it's just that, you either have some money or don't have some money, and you work to whatever that level is. And to me, as long as you're always working as to the highest professional level that you possibly can, your work will always be better than just what that money that was put in it, whether it was no money or $100,000 or 200,000, it'll always be more, because you're always striving for that and being a true professional, a true craftsperson. Working in this, which I think was also what TV teaches someone. When you go to work every day and you do a show every day, 5 days a week, you start to learn how to, forget about it, go home, go to sleep, get up and do the rest of your life. It's not your whole existence. And so you start to develop a little bit more of a discipline and a way to take that in. And I think that that's what low budget production is. It's just being able to adjust. And I think that that's why you see so many independent directors taking into big movies who have the personality type who are willing to collaborate. You certainly can't be somebody who comes from, if you're going to go from trying to go from this point to this point and you've never collaborated with a DP, you're probably not going to do that. Okay. Let's just look at it that way. If you're shooting like TV and you're shooting movies and you're saying that that's a movie, and you're shooting like a reality TV show and you're not working with a DP, more than likely that's not going to be a stepping stone for you to move to the next level. Do you know what I mean? A lot of independent movies, I think, suffer from, and micro budget movies suffer from which is even in my day originally starting out, is like they were like, look, just get a sound person. That was the big secret. Get a sound person. Okay.
I remember those
Well,
days.
yeah, I mean, well, geez, that's not a secret. Everybody, like, now you have the ability to have one-man bands where you have equipment, you have Zooms where you don't necessarily have to do that. You can have, as long as you have a proper equipment, a good microphone goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some things that you think, as far as independent productions, that independent filmmakers overlook that maybe don't have so much to do with money, but like borrowed from the more like legit, like studio system?
Well, one of my favorite things in what I did, which I think is why you may love Redemption or you may absolutely hate Redemption, because there are some people who have they just think it's the biggest piece of crap they've ever seen in their life. And okay, I'm fine with that, because at least I evoked a feeling. But from a technical standpoint, there are some technical flaws on it, but overall it's a technically sound movie. And those are, I think that is a key element to everything. You have to have quality sound. You need to light, you need to, compose your shots, and you need to plan. And that's how in planning is free. Thinking is free. Pre-shot visualization is free. Okay. I don't care what level you're on. And if you love to direct, or if you love to visualize and produce, I'll break down and look at trying to set up a show budget or a whatever budget, because that's pre-viz for me. I do it for other people because I'm pre-vising. I'm going, okay, well, what are the challenges to this? How will we get there? How would I shoot this? And even if I'm not making that movie, visualizing that movie all the way through, planning is free. And you can take an extra week. Rehearsal is such a huge thing. Just blocking, doing, setup, blocking, rehearsal, shoot, actually doing those things in that process, because you don't got that much crew interfering with you in the first place. If you're like 2 people, 3 people, rehearse it, get it right. No one's pressuring you. There's no Billy Bob sitting over on the bench reading a newspaper pressuring you. It's just so, shoot, get what you want, and have it visualized. Really, out of TV, one of the things that I did to get more familiar with movie and film production is I did a lot of ADing on AFI features, on music videos, on commercials, and for independent movies. And then that's kind of how I bridge myself from being a direct, to even getting myself to think I could direct a feature, even though I was working, in TV. So without film school,
Right.
right. So, so that, having a process, I think, is the key element into all of it.
Right. And speaking of all that, and we might have a little overlap here, but one thing that I also think, and I've heard you say in the past, that a lot of independent filmmakers are missing when it comes to their screenplays is in the development of that screenplay. And we talk a little bit about the importance of developing the actual screenplay, the actual work.
Well, I mean, let's take it. If we were architects or civil engineers, that is, or, like one of my exes, a NASA quality, engineer, right? I mean, are they putting together a sloppy plan and then and then shooting up the space shuttle? Does a surgeon not know what moves he's going to make as he's going to make the cuts before that? Even the best mechanics know the moves that they're making and have made them so many times that they can walk you through it as they're doing it, and do it in blindfolded. Why wouldn't we be able to do that? Why wouldn't we have that thought process? And if you're not thinking it all the way through, that's what I love about filmmaking. That's what I love about television. That's what I love about media, is we have the ability to say, what if? And we are shorting ourselves as artists, as creatives, when we don't ask ourselves, what if? What if I do this? What if I do this another way? I'm not talking about rewriting. What if I just change this?
Yeah.
What if I just think about it a little bit more? And sometimes it's like when I was writing those shorts in a week, I would spend 2 days thinking and then just pound through 3 days of just straight writing because I would have a plan.
Right.
And the plan was what I was writing off of. I wasn't writing off of just my ability. I was writing off of a distinct plan that gave me a guideline where I don't have to think through. I've got something developed so that I can pound it out.
Yeah.
Now I can rip through it.
Yeah. I think
without it, you're lost.
Yeah. I think too many times with a lot of independent filmmakers, screenwriters, is we get an idea, we want to execute the idea, we want to go from A to B, and we take the easiest route to it.
Yeah, you're settling on your first idea. Okay, the first idea, the first cut is the deepest, just like with love, and the first idea we fall in love with. But the reality is that everybody's got a first idea now. We've already started with Shakespeare, for God's sakes. I mean, people have been telling stories forever. So you're going to settle on your first idea. It's going to be mundane, so there's not like you have to completely 100% recreate the wheel to find your own voice and to be original. And you still have to live up to audience expectation even in your mishmashes. You can't go, I'm going to put, a creature feature with kind of a comedy, which a creature and not deliver on the scare moments of a creature feature just because I'm going to have comedy in it. It doesn't work that way. Right. You'll have to have the comedy and you'll have to have the scare factor. You'll have to have the creature. You have to deliver on those marriages.
Awesome. Is there anything I've missed that you wanted to say?
Well, we didn't talk any about the independent productions of the movies that we've made recently, like Rhymecology or Aliens versus Bigfoot. All right, or anything. It's only 107. What, you in a hurry? Yeah. Brother, just get on. You use it. I'm in the logo. I can't even get an hour interview. Isn't that something? See, we need to fight about this. I'm just gonna riff off on here. I'm gonna talk in here like this. All right, because he don't even want to talk to me. Don't want to ask no questions. No nothing. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there is Rhymecology, which is currently out, which is something that you and I made together, about Jeff Walker, Jay Walker, Jay Horton, Jay Walker, Jeff Walker. I don't know, Jason J, all you J's.
Rhymecology, whatever he's calling himself these days.
Rhymecology, Write Better Rhymes is the name of it. And it's a real journey into an artist who is a rhymecologist. He truly helps people rhyme. He's a performer. He's a spoken word artist. We feature Sekou Andrews, who was nominated for a Grammy. It was made over, the COVID. Basically, we were making it before lockdown, and we finished it up during lockdown, and got it out there. So I'm rather proud of it. It's gotten some good reviews. I'd love more people to watch it because I think it's something that's very heartfelt, and they would get something out of it, not just if you're interested in music and rapping, but also just, a perspective of someone who continues to have a drive for their life and for their careers, in spite of maybe not having the success or clarity of success that other people around him, but he certainly has had that. And so I think it's definitely, as an artist, learning about other people's journeys has always been something that has helped me unify and keep me from being someone who wants to get so separate from things. So that's a key element for me, right, with that one anyway.
So did you have you been enjoying the documentary process?
Yeah, I mean, the documentary process for me, especially when I can be in it fully, like go for a week or a couple weeks, like when we finish them or get them done, reminds me more of working in TV, in that sense of just kind of getting something done and being able to have everything be self-contained, not have to worry about a lot of different stuff, just go out and shoot it and do it and turn it around. And I like that feeling sometimes of not having to go to the edit bay or go to the whatever. It's like we can pretty much do everything here. And that's not a bad thing. I really like having some control of the process, because certainly I've had, as someone who loves to collaborate, I've also been in circumstances where the collaboration has been either so heavily on me that I need not have collaborated. And, so that this process is there's a reward, there's a reward whisk to it, there's a reward whisk to it. That ultimately we can, it can go out and people can watch it, and great, we make some money. And if they don't watch it, we don't make any money.
Right.
It's pretty straight up. And that doesn't mean that people don't necessarily like it. It means that they're not necessarily discovering it. And we may not have the ability to get it out there as distributors, or maybe don't know what that tone is, or maybe it needs something else to be around it. Sometimes it's about how things are presented, in which one of the reasons I love World One TV and the experience I'm getting is taking me back to those days of working in a video store when I was 18, 19 years old, and recommending videos to people, and organizing the shelves and rewinding the videos, and all of that process, where it's like that curation and that interaction is what I really really get into. And I'm really looking forward to being able to see what people like more on a more intimate level with a curated audience. So in getting to figure out, well, where do they stop? And certainly we make things on YouTube, and we get reports from different things, and we get the meetings, but this will probably be the clearest I'll ever have my own data, whatever you want to say, datum, however you want to go through that process. You're ultimately providing ourselves with another avenue, and it's ultimately another way to reach an audience, and ultimately the most direct way, where we can have the most influence on it, take the things that we've learned from distributing from other things, and certainly learning from that. And it's a challenge. Writing descriptions is a challenge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like nuts and boltsy when you get ready to tackle a new project. Like, let's first say we're working on one called the Atlanta Ripper. How do you get started?
I'm depending on the Atlanta Ripper is definitely more of a research driven, and comes out of a lot of work that I've done over the years. So I've researched, and I've been working on a screenplay about another set of serial killers for a long time. So that actually just made it, and I'm interested in, we're still looking at doing, some kind of documentary series on just Black serial killers. And the Atlanta Ripper came out of that research. Actually, the Atlanta Ripper came out of working on a Bigfoot documentary with you, and talking to somebody here in Georgia who had written something on the Atlanta Ripper. So sometimes it's literally just being in that. And that's, like I said, what I do like about being an independent documentary production is that I feel like on some level I'm back on the assignment desk at some of the newsrooms I've worked in, where ultimately the more you can talk to people, the ability to get a business card and get out and meet somebody and get a contract, or meet new people, and kind of explore those types of things, are definitely a premium, and an ability to sell your services. We've been selling our services around and finding new distributors, and a lot of that comes from being organized, really, and just being comfortable talking on the phone, calling somebody up, or writing a good email, and getting down that rabbit hole with somebody to say, hey, look, we've got material, we've got stuff. So something like Atlanta Ripper comes from wanting a bigger project, and seeing that opportunity, and knowing that it's going to hit a certain demographic, which I think that we're often looking for. And from my perspective, also having been someone who has worked professionally for the networks, having more interest in producing things that interest me. So something like the Atlanta Ripper, where it's a serial killer that was killing Black women in the streets of Atlanta around the turn of the century, where I can identify with one of the first victims, which may not have been a victim of the Atlanta Ripper, but was named Della Reid, and my last name is Reid, and my family's from Georgia. So, I found an immediate connection to that when I was reading it. So wanting those kind of personal connections. And I think that's what documentary films, in the same way that feature films and docudramas do, like a Redemption, is an opportunity to make something that really speaks to what I want to say, or what I'm looking to say as an individual.
What are some future projects you'd like to tackle?
Well, I'm hopeful that one of these days I actually will finish the Zebra script and make that movie. So that's one thing. I'm looking at perhaps making some smaller, not urban, but Black projects. Thank you very much. I almost said urban. Don't say urban. But so we have that whole thing, and I've got some older projects like Learn Suffering as a short that I'd like to make, or possibly like a mystery type of thing, or an anthology type of series. I'm going back and looking at writing from 25, 26, and kind of rehashing and playing around with it, and playing with adding supernatural angles to things that maybe were already a little supernatural. So yeah, and more research. I've always wanted to work on an Arthur Ashe project, somebody who I'm a big fan of. Arthur Ashe tennis ball right back there, right next to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali overdone, can't do any Muhammad Ali projects, but Arthur Ashe underdone, underserved. So so that would be something. That would be my, if Spike Lee has his Jackie Robinson movie he wanted to make, which unfortunately he didn't get to make, but the Arthur Ashe movie is probably for me. That, and also doing some shows for World One TV. We're developing some things for that, hopefully a concert series that I'll be directing. Because I have worked as a director for hire or field director for hire on shows like Central Ave and things in the past. So hopefully I'll be able to take advantage of that and maybe direct some more concerts, which I always enjoyed doing, like Smash Mouth and Everclear back in the day. So I'm hopeful, and I keep just working on developing things, and World One TV continues to move forward, and we continue to work on projects. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, Sean, thank you so much for taking the time. If people wanted to like catch up with you on social media or whatever, what's a good way to track you down?
On my IG, it's Sean Alden Reid, SEAN Alden, ALDEN REID. And my company website is newcinematribe.com, NEW Cinema, CINEMA Tribe, TRIBE.com. Or you can go and find me, of course, through World One TV, which is now available live, World One TV, and we'll be expanding to new ones. So if you want to see a lot of the movies that Jay Horton and Sean Reid have produced in different forms, you can see them on World One TV and a lot of other very interesting stuff.
Oh, and I just thought of something too. So if a filmmaker had something that they thought might fit in with World One TV, are you guys taking submissions?
We absolutely are taking submissions, and you can go on to our contact button, and there is, I believe it's distribution at World One TV, and send us an email and we can check it out. And if you're developing original material, we're getting into that. We're not quite ready, but there'll be more information on the website. And we are working on eventually actually having a direct submission type of format where someone would be able to post it up. Of course, it need to be approved, but we'd be able to post that up and people would be able to submit and be a part of World One TV that way.
So if you think you've got a project that might line up with Sean's new streaming site, World One TV, check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. And don't forget to check out his movie Redemption right here on the YouTube. But whatever you do, keep making movies.